Atlanta is in flames, and social media is eating itself alive. Out of nowhere, Mendeecees heresies, the usually calm, family-first husband of Yandy Smith, has stepped into the Frost family saga with a revelation so wild. Fans are calling it the biggest love and hip-hop bombshell of the year. Imagine this: Rasheeda and Kirk, already carrying years of messy history, sitting front row at a reunion taping, only for Mendeecees to lean forward, mic in hand, and drop words that no one saw coming. Gasps filled the studio. The audience froze. Even Mona Scott's poker face slipped. Within minutes, Twitter was a battlefield. Instagram stories were reposting clips non-stop, and hashtags like hashtag Mendeecees exposes Frosts and hashtag Love and Hip Hop Chaos shot straight to the top of trending lists. The moment was raw, shocking, and unfiltered. Mendeecees didn't just hint, he named names, recalled private conversations, and painted a picture of betrayal so detailed that even the cameras seemed to shake. Rasheeda's jaw tightened. Kirk fidgeted in his seat. Yandy looked like she wanted to vanish. The energy in the room turned volatile, like one wrong word would explode into a full-blown war. Fans at home were glued to their screens, replaying the clip, trying to catch every expression, every whisper. Did he just say that? No way, this is real. The chaos spread like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone wanted answers. What did Mendeecees know? How long had he been sitting on this information? And why choose this moment to unleash it? By the time the footage leaked online, entire fan pages were breaking down the audio, blogs were spitting out headlines in all caps, and YouTube comment sections were overflowing with speculation. Was this the end of the Frost Empire? Was Rasheeda about to walk away from Kirk for good? Or was there an even darker twist hiding beneath Mendeecees' carefully chosen words? One thing was clear: the Frost family drama had just reached a level no one expected, and the streets of Atlanta would not stay quiet tonight. The studio lights burned hot against the faces of the cast, but the real heat wasn't from the stage setup, it was from the tension hanging in the air. Mendeecees sat forward in his chair, shoulders squared, voice steady but laced with an edge that demanded attention. "Y'all don't even know the half of it," he said, looking directly at Kirk and Rasheeda. The audience gasped. Phones lifted into the air as fans in the crowd whispered to each other, like they were witnessing the start of a reality TV apocalypse. Rasheeda shifted in her seat, her expression calm on the surface but her eyes darting like a storm was building behind them. Kirk leaned back, lips pursed, clearly trying to keep his composure, but his bouncing leg betrayed nerves. Everyone knew something was about to unravel. Mona Scott raised a hand, trying to keep the panel from descending into chaos too soon. "Mendeecees, I think you need to clarify what you're saying," she urged. Her voice sharp, but her eyes lit with that producer's gleam. She knew a headline moment when she saw one. Mendeecees didn't hesitate. He leaned into the microphone and said words that made the room fall into stunned silence. "Rasheeda, Kirk, it's not just your marriage that's been messy. People don't know the real story of what went down, and I've been sitting on it for too long. It's time everybody hears it." The crowd exploded. Rasheeda's hand shot up, palm open as if to stop him. "You don't know what you talking about, Mendeecees. Don't sit up here and drag my name into whatever mess you got going on," she fired back, her voice low but sharp enough to cut through the noise. Kirk added quickly, "Man, keep our name out your mouth. You don't know nothing about what happens in our house." But Mendeecees only shook his head, almost calm, which made it even more unnerving. "Oh, I know more than you think. See, when you've been around this circle as long as I have, secrets slip, conversations leak, people get sloppy, and y'all got sloppy." Gasps rippled through the set again. Yandy tugged at her husband's arm, whispering, "Babe, maybe just let it go." But he pulled away gently, eyes still locked on the Frosts. "No, because too many people been living lies, and families are breaking while y'all sit here acting picture perfect for cameras." That was the line that lit the fuse. Rasheeda snapped forward, voice raised. "First of all, ain't nobody acting picture perfect. I've been through hell with this man sitting next to me, and the whole world knows it. You don't get to rewrite my pain." Her words cracked as her voice grew louder, eyes glassy, and fans online later clipped that exact moment, flooding social media with captions like "Rasheeda's breaking point and she's tired." Kirk, who had been holding back, finally barked, "Man, you need to stay out our business. Handle your own marriage, your own drama. Don't sit here trying to get clout off me and my wife." The word clout drew a collective "oh" from the audience, as though he had accused Mendeecees of the ultimate sin. Mendeecees smirked, leaning back like he was daring Kirk to step further into the fire. "Clout, Kirk, please. The only reason anybody even watching you right now is because of the scandals you create. Your name been dragged more times than I can count. I don't need clout, your drama is the clout. That was when the energy in the room shifted completely. Suddenly, this wasn't just a casual jab, it was war. Rasheeda turned to Kirk, her hand pressing against his arm to hold him back, but her own composure was cracking. Don't you see what's happening? She hissed at him. This is exactly what they want, us tearing each other apart on camera. But Kirk was already fuming, his voice louder, his body leaning forward. Nah, because he thinks he can sit here and expose me like he's some saint. You want to talk about families? You want to talk about lies? Don't act like you ain't been caught up in nothing. The room shook with shouts. Yandi stood up now, waving her hands. Kirk, don't you dare. Don't you even try to flip this on my husband when everybody in here knows your skeleton's been rattling for years. The audience cheered, sensing the crossfire was about to turn deadly. Mona clapped her hands, begging for order, but the chaos was already unstoppable. And then Mendeecees hit them with the line that would dominate every headline the next morning. I got receipts. Don't play with me. I've been quiet out of respect, but I'm done protecting people who don't deserve it. He pulled out his phone, holding it up in the air like it was a smoking gun. The audience erupted, screaming, fans standing on their feet. Cameras zoomed in, trying to catch the screen. Rasheeda immediately stood up, pointing directly at him. You better not bring some fake text messages up here trying to drag my name, she shouted, her voice cracking under the pressure. Kirk stood up too, trying to shield her from the attention, but the damage was done. The crowd started chanting, show it, show it, show it. The sound was deafening, like a stadium rather than a studio. Mona's voice was nearly drowned out as she begged him not to do it live, but Mendeecees locked eyes with Rasheeda and Kirk, his face stone cold, and said, I'm not scared to tell the truth. Maybe you should be. That one sentence traveled across social media like wildfire. Memes popped up within minutes, gifs of Rasheeda's stunned face, clips of Kirk whispering something into her ear, fans dissecting Yandi's wide-eyed reaction. The internet had already decided this was bigger than a reunion, it was a reckoning. Rasheeda, breathing heavy now, turned to the audience and screamed, don't y'all see what's happening? He's trying to tear down everything I've built. But in that moment, it didn't matter. The audience wasn't listening. They were glued to Mendeecees' phone, waiting for him to reveal whatever receipts he claimed to hold. Kirk's hand grabbed Rasheeda's arm, steadying her, but his own expression gave him away. The guilt in his eyes wasn't missed by the fans, who later tore him apart online for looking shook. Backstage, producers scrambled, security moved closer to the stage, and even the other cast members were whispering among themselves. Carly Red was caught on camera mouthing, oh my god, while young Jock leaned into his mic, chuckling nervously, this is too much, man, this too much. But nobody could stop it. The room was boiling, and Mendeecees had the match. Go ahead then, Rasheeda shouted, throwing her arms out in frustration. If you think you got something, show the world, but don't you dare sit here and play with me like I'm some weak woman you can walk over. Her voice cracked, but her stance was unshakable, and fans immediately praised her online for standing tall under pressure. Kirk, however, looked trapped, his lips tight, his hand over his mouth, eyes darting. Mendeecees smirked, lowering the phone just slightly, as though dragging out the suspense for maximum effect. Oh, trust me, Rasheeda, weak is the last word anybody would use for you, but loyal, faithful, that's another story. The room exploded with screams, gasps, and chaos, leaving Rasheeda trembling with rage, and Kirk pale as the cameras zoomed in closer. Fans watching at home had no choice but to keep their eyes locked, knowing the night had just crossed into legendary reality TV territory. The kind of scandal that would echo long after the cameras stopped rolling. The crowd's roar refused to die down, every person in the studio sensing that what came next could change everything. Mendeecees still held his phone in the air, the screen glowing faintly, taunting everyone who dared look. Rasheeda's chest rose and fell sharply, her breath heavy, her eyes locked on him with a mix of fury and fear. Kirk muttered something under his breath, barely audible, but the cameras caught it. Don't do this. Those 3 words alone were enough to send fans spiraling online, convinced Kirk had just admitted guilt without realizing it. Mona Scott, sensing the situation was spiraling into chaos, stepped in again, her voice cutting like steel. Mendeecees, I need you to think carefully before you cross a line you can't come back from. We're here for dialogue, not destruction. But even Mona's commanding tone couldn't reel him in. He leaned forward, phone still in his grip, and said with deliberate calm, destruction. Nah. This is called honesty. And if the truth burns bridges, maybe those bridges weren't solid to begin with. The audience gasped, clapping and shouting, as if they were watching a live courtroom drama instead of a reunion taping. Rasheeda threw her hands up, pacing now, unable to sit still. You don't know what you're talking about. You think you can just come up here, wave a phone around, and rewrite my life. You don't know the fights I've fought, the tears I've cried, the things I've sacrificed. Her voice cracked with raw emotion. And suddenly the cameras zoomed in close. Her glossy eyes told a story even without words. Fans later flooded Twitter with comments like, "Protect Rasheeda at all costs and she's giving us her realest moment ever." But Kirk, always the wild card, decided to fire back. He leaned across the table toward Mendeecees, his voice loud, his finger jabbing in the air. "You out here running your mouth about me and mine? Fine. Let's talk about you. You wanna act like you holier than thou, like your marriage been perfect? We all know the rumors. We all heard the whispers about what you've been doing when cameras ain't rolling. Don't make me air out your business, Brewer." The entire studio erupted with screams and claps, people standing from their seats like they were in church. Yandi immediately stood, her face flushed red, shouting, "Don't you dare. Don't you even try to drag me into this mess. My marriage ain't your shield, Kirk. Handle your own drama." Her voice shook with fury, and Mendeecees quickly raised a hand to calm her. "Nah, Yandi, let him talk, because every time someone tries to throw dirt my way, they end up burying themselves." Rasheeda, now standing center stage, pointed at Mendeecees, her finger trembling with rage. "You need to understand something. My life ain't a joke. My marriage ain't your storyline. You come for me, you better come correct, because I'm not the one to play with." The crowd cheered wildly, sensing that Rasheeda had fully stepped into battle mode. She turned toward Kirk, her voice rising higher. "And you don't think I didn't hear what you just said? What rumors? What whispers? Why you always look guilty when somebody points a finger at you?" Kirk stammered, his voice cracking. "Man, stop trying to twist this on me. He's the one holding a phone, threatening to show God knows what." But the audience was already murmuring, sensing that Kirk's panic meant there was truth buried somewhere in Mendeecees' words. Mendeecees simply smirked, lowering the phone just slightly, and said, "You know what's funny? A guilty man always sweats first." At that moment, Carly Red couldn't hold her tongue any longer. From her seat at the far end of the couch, she leaned into her mic, eyes wide with delight. "Listen, I don't know what's in that phone, but if Mendeecees got receipts, y'all better buckle up, because this right here, this the kind of mess Atlanta been waiting for." Her words set the crowd off again, screams echoing through the studio. Jock covered his face, laughing nervously. "Man, Carly, you messy." But she ain't lying though. The cameras caught every flicker of emotion, the tension in Rasheeda's jaw, the twitch in Kirk's eye, the calm fire burning in Mendeecees' stare. Yandi shook her head in frustration, gripping her husband's arm. "Babe, you don't owe these people nothing. Don't stoop to their level." But Mendeecees leaned closer to his mic, his voice dropping lower, almost whispering but still carrying enough weight to silence the room. "See? That's the problem, Yandi. For too long, everybody's been protecting the wrong people. And I'm not gonna sit back while folks pretend to be innocent when I know the dirt." The energy grew suffocating. Fans online would later describe the silence in that moment as the calm before the storm. Even Mona, who had seen every kind of blow-up over the years, looked uneasy, shifting in her chair. She turned toward Mendeecees, her producer's instinct kicking in. "If you're gonna show something, then show it. But remember, you can't put a genie back in the bottle once it's out." Mendeecees lifted the phone again, tilting it so only Kirk and Rasheeda could see the screen. Both of them leaned forward, eyes narrowing, and the look on their faces told the audience everything. Rasheeda's lips parted, her breath catching. Kirk's hand flew to his forehead, muttering, "Damn." The crowd screamed as though they had seen the proof themselves, even though they hadn't. Within seconds, social media lit up with captions like, "If looks could kill, Kirk just confessed, and Rasheeda's face says it all." Rasheeda snapped upright, her voice breaking. "This is a setup. That's fake. That's photoshopped. Y'all really believe he got something real on us?" She turned to the audience, pleading now. "Y'all know me. Y'all know my heart. Don't let him tear me down like this." But Mendeecees only shook his head, calm as ever. "Fake Rasheeda. You know better than that. You know exactly where this came from. The question is, are you gonna admit it, or do I have to show everybody right now?" The audience roared, chanting again, "Show it, show it, show it." Rasheeda's hands trembled as she clasped them together, almost begging. Kirk looked like he was sinking into the floor, his shoulders hunched, sweat glistening on his brow. Yandi crossed her arms tightly, glaring at Kirk with disgust. "You know what? I don't even care what's on that phone. All I see is guilt written all over your face." That one line was enough to ignite the flames higher. Fans on Twitter clipped it instantly, declaring Yandy the voice of the people. Comment sections exploded with debates. Was Kirk finally exposed? Was Rasheeda hiding something deeper? Or was Mendeecees playing a game nobody else saw coming? The room was thick with suspense. And then, as if the chaos wasn't enough, someone from the audience screamed, "He's lying." Heads whipped toward the back of the room where a woman stood, her face partially obscured by the shadows. Security rushed toward her, but the cameras caught her pointing directly at Kirk before she was escorted out. The room exploded with shrieks and speculation. Mona's eyes widened in. A layer of scandal had just been dropped in their laps. The tension was unbearable. Mendeecees smirked, lowering his phone slowly, letting the suspense drag out longer, while Rasheeda and Kirk were left reeling, their reputations dangling by a thread in front of millions of viewers. The studio audience leaned forward, desperate to know what came next, unaware that the night was only beginning and the real storm had yet to arrive. The studio felt like it had been struck by lightning. That lone voice from the back had cracked the already fragile atmosphere wide open, and the aftershocks were visible in every face on stage. Security rushed the woman out, but the damage was done. The crowd was buzzing, the cast was rattled, and social media had already clipped the moment with captions like, "Who is she?" and "Mystery woman shuts the reunion down." Rasheeda's eyes darted around, wild and panicked. She pointed toward the exit, her voice shrill. "Y'all really gonna let random people walk up in here yelling lies? This ain't no circus." But her protests sounded more like desperation than strength, and the audience caught it instantly. Whispers spread. Why she so pressed? Why she look scared? Kirk rubbed his forehead, muttering again, "Man, this is too much." His voice cracked like a man who could feel the walls closing in. Mendeecees leaned back in his chair, phone resting on his lap, his face calm, almost smug. "See, the truth got a way of walking into the room even when you try to lock the doors," he said coolly. That line sent the audience into hysterics, clapping, stomping, chanting. Rasheeda snapped back, "You think you sound deep, but all you doing is spreading poison. You don't know me. You don't know what me and my husband been through." "Don't I?" Mendeecees shot back instantly, leaning forward. "Don't I know about the late-night calls? The secret meetings nobody was supposed to hear about, the messages that didn't add up. You think this city don't talk? Atlanta's, small Rasheeda, and every secret y'all tried to bury got a heartbeat." The air went cold. Rasheeda froze, her lips parting but no words coming out. Kirk's leg bounced uncontrollably as the cameras zoomed in on his nervous hands gripping the edge of the couch. The audience roared again, chanting, "Receipts! Receipts!" Carly Red's eyes gleamed as she leaned into her mic, voice dripping with messy delight. "Mendeecees baby, if you got something, the people deserve to see it. Don't tease us." Young Jock let out a nervous laugh, trying to diffuse the tension. "Man, Carly, you always egging stuff on. But hey, I'm not gonna lie, I kinda wanna see too." The audience screamed in agreement. Rasheeda spun toward Carly, her voice breaking with fury. "Shut your mouth. This ain't your life on the line. You think it's funny, but this is my family. My kid's gonna see this. My mama, gonna see this. You got no idea what it feels like to have strangers try to tear apart everything you worked for." Her voice cracked on the word mama, and instantly, fans online turned it into a trending clip, praising her vulnerability. But others weren't as sympathetic. Comments poured in. "If she innocent, why she so emotional?" And guilt written all over that breakdown. Kirk finally stood, his voice louder now, almost booming. "Enough. I'm not about to let you drag my wife through the mud with half-truths and gossip. You think you know something? Prove it. But don't stand up here trying to play judge and jury with my family." His chest heaved as he pointed at Mendeecees. "You don't get to decide what's true about my marriage." But Mendeecees didn't flinch. He stood too, towering over Kirk, their faces inches apart, the tension so thick even the audience went quiet. He held the phone high and said, "I don't decide the truth. The truth speaks for itself." Then, with one tap, he unlocked the screen. The cameras tried to zoom in, but Mona leaped from her chair, shouting, "Cut the feed. Cut IT now." The production crew scrambled, lights flickered, and the audience screamed in chaos, some standing on chairs, trying to see, but the cast had already seen enough. Rasheeda's knees buckled, and she sank back onto the couch, her hand covering her mouth. Kirk's face turned pale, his hands pressed against his temples as he muttered, "No, no, no." The studio audience went berserk, shrieking, clapping, chanting louder than ever. Yandy's voice rang out, cutting through the noise. You see what happens when you live foul. Truth don't need an invitation, it shows up anyway. Rasheeda finally found her voice, her scream echoing across the stage. This is a lie. This is a damn lie. Y'all gonna ruin me with something that ain't even real. She turned on Kirk, grabbing his arm, her voice cracking with desperation. Tell them it's fake. Tell them, Kirk. But Kirk stayed frozen, silent, eyes locked on the floor. That silence spoke louder than any words could. The crowd screamed again, sensing blood in the water. Carly Red leaned back, whispering into her mic with wide eyes. Lord, it's over for them. Jock shook his head, his voice low. This is history, y'all. We ain't never seen nothing like this. Suddenly, Rasheeda stood again, tears streaming down her face. You know what? Y'all want a show? Fine, but I'm not gonna let anybody define me by some damn screenshot. I've been through worse. I've survived worse. And if this is the hill y'all want me to die on, then watch me climb it. Her defiance drew cheers, but her trembling body betrayed the toll it was taking. Mendeecees put his phone down slowly, his voice calm, almost chilling. It ain't about destroying you, Rasheeda. It's about exposing the lies. People deserve to know the truth. And if you're strong enough to survive, then maybe you'll finally be free. The studio audience was left in stunned silence, the weight of his words crashing down like thunder. Rasheeda wiped her tears. Kirk stood frozen. And Mona Scott held her head in her hands, knowing the reunion had just become the most infamous episode in love and hip-hop history. The night wasn't over, though. In the shadows of the stage, whispers spread among the cast, because some swore that the mystery woman escorted out wasn't done yet, and whatever she had to say could make Mendeecees' bombshell look like child's play. Backstage, chaos reigned. Security scrambled through headsets, producers shouted directions, and Mona Scott paced like she was trying to hold a crumbling empire together. The audience buzzed with chatter, half of them standing, refusing to sit until they knew what would happen next. But all eyes were still on Rasheeda and Kirk, frozen in the harsh glare of the stage lights. Rasheeda sat stiff on the couch, her arms wrapped around herself, her chest heaving with uneven breaths. Kirk remained standing, head bowed, sweat dripping down his temple, hands clenched tight. The silence between them was louder than any screaming match they'd ever had. Then came the whispers. Carly Red, always quick to sniff out drama, leaned toward young Jock, her voice caught by a hot mic. You heard what they sang? That woman they dragged out, she ain't just some random. Word is she connected to Kirk. Jock's eyebrows shot up, and he nearly choked on his laugh. Wait, what? Don't tell me this about to get even messier. The crowd, hearing just enough of their exchange, erupted with shouts, fueling the fire even more. Rasheeda whipped her head toward them, her voice trembling with rage. Y'all shut the hell up. Stop running your mouths like you know my life. Carly smirked, her eyes glinting with that messy thrill. Girl, I don't need to know your life, the street's talking for you. The audience hollered, some clapping, some booing, while cameras zoomed in on Rasheeda's tear-streaked face. Mendeecees, still calm, leaned back in his chair with his arms crossed. Funny thing about secrets, he said slowly, his tone deliberate, they never stay buried. That woman didn't show up by accident. She came because she got tired of holding y'all's mess. Rasheeda's fists clenched, her nails digging into her palms. You don't know her. You don't know anything about what's going on here. But the audience wasn't buying it anymore. Chants began to echo again. Bring her back. Bring her back. The energy was wild, uncontrollable, the kind of frenzy Mona both dreaded and secretly thrived on. Mona raised her mic, trying to calm the storm. Listen everybody, please. We can't just throw accusations without facts. But Mendeecees cut her off, his voice sharp. The facts are right in front of you. You just scared of how deep they run. Kirk finally raised his head, his face pale but his jaw tight. Man, you need to stop dragging strangers into this. I don't know that woman. She ain't got nothing to do with me. The audience booed, sensing weakness. Rasheeda whipped her head toward him, her voice breaking. Don't you lie to me, Kirk. Don't you sit up here and lie to my face when the whole damn world watching. Her scream cracked like thunder, her hands slamming against her knees. Gasps filled the room. This wasn't just television. This was a breakdown unfolding live. Yandi stood abruptly, pointing toward Kirk. You see, even your wife don't believe you. And why should she? You've been dodging, sweating, stuttering this whole time. If you innocent, stand tall. But you can't, because you know the truth gonna break you. The crowd erupted in cheers, some chanting Yandi's name, others booing Kirk. Mona pressed her headset, listening to frantic producers backstage, then sighed into her mic. All right, we're bringing her back. The studio lost its mind. People screamed, stomped, waved their arms like they were at a concert. Rasheeda clutched her chest, whispering frantically to herself, "No, no, no, this can't be happening." Kirk's shoulders slumped as though every ounce of fight had drained out of him. And then the doors opened. The mystery woman reappeared, flanked by 2 security guards, her head high, her stride slow but confident. The cameras zoomed in, the audience gasped, and the entire cast leaned forward. Carly's jaw dropped. Jock covered his mouth. Even Mendeecees raised an eyebrow, as though even he hadn't expected this. The woman stepped into the light, her face revealed for all to see. And the room exploded. She looked just like someone shouted from the audience, but their words were drowned out by screams. Rasheeda's hand flew to her mouth, her knees buckling again, but she forced herself upright, eyes wide in shock. Kirk turned away, his hands on his head, pacing furiously as though trying to outrun the reality crashing down. The woman stood firm, her voice ringing clear across the chaos. "My name don't matter right now. What matters is the truth, and I'm here to tell it." The crowd lost control, people chanting her words back, cameras flashing, phones recording every second. Rasheeda staggered forward, tears streaming. Why now? After everything I've been through, why would you come here to tear me apart?" The woman's gaze stayed locked on her, cold but steady. "Because you ain't the only one who been through it, Rasheeda. And you ain't the only one who deserves the truth." Kirk finally spun around, his face twisted with rage. "You lying? You don't know what you're talking about. This all a setup." But the woman smirked, her eyes narrowing. "Funny, Kirk. That's the same thing you said to me when you promised none of this would ever see the light of day." The audience screamed louder than ever, some standing on chairs, some clutching their friends. Social media blew up instantly, hashtags multiplying by the second. Hashtag Kirk exposed. Hashtag Rasheeda breakdown. Hashtag mystery woman revealed. The energy was unbearable. The frosts were drowning, and the cameras were capturing every second of it. And yet, in the middle of the chaos, Mendeecees sat back with his arms crossed, watching it all unfold with a knowing smirk. He had dropped the bomb, but the fallout was just beginning. The reunion had officially turned into a war zone, and the truth was still only halfway revealed. The air was electric, pulsing like a storm about to split the sky. The mystery woman stood at center stage, her eyes locked on Kirk as if the entire world had vanished and it was just the two of them. The audience roared, some chanting, some screaming, every phone lifted high to capture history being made. Rasheeda stood trembling, her body frozen but her eyes burning with a mix of rage and heartbreak. The woman adjusted the mic in her hand, her voice calm but steady. "Kirk, you told me it was nothing. You told me I was just a mistake you'd bury and forget. But how can I be a mistake when the truth lives inside me every single day?" The audience screamed, the cast gasped, and Rasheeda staggered back like she had been punched in the chest. "No," she whispered, shaking her head violently. "No, no, no, this ain't happening. You're lying. You're lying on my husband." Kirk rushed forward, pointing a finger at the woman, his voice frantic and cracking. "You need to shut your mouth right now. Stop spreading lies about me. You just want your 5 minutes of fame." But his anger only fueled the crowd's suspicions. Yandi leaned forward, her mouth open in disbelief. "Wait, is she saying what I think she's saying?" Carly Red clutched her chest, eyes wide as saucers. "Lord have mercy." Kirk done did it again. The audience was chanting now, a deafening chorus. "Tell it, tell it, tell it." The woman lifted her chin higher, her voice rising over the noise. "I kept quiet because I didn't want to break a family apart, but you broke it the day you lied to both of us. You broke it when you told me Rasheeda would never find out. You broke it when you left me carrying a secret that was never mine alone to keep." Rasheeda's hands shot up to her ears, as if blocking the words would make them disappear. Tears streamed down her face, mascara streaking. Don't you dare stand up here and drag me through this again. I've been through this before. I've fought for my marriage, and I won't let you destroy me." Her screams cracked, her body shaking violently. The audience was on their feet, some cheering her strength, others pitying her collapse. Kirk tried to take control, pacing the stage, his arms flailing. "This woman is lying. Y'all gonna believe some random over me? After everything I've done for my family, after everything I've sacrificed." His voice broke on the last word, but it only made him look weaker. Jock leaned into his mic, shaking his head. "Brr, you can't out-yell the truth. If she lying, why you look like you about to faint?" The crowd hollered in agreement. Mendeecees.com, as ever, finally spoke again, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "Kirk, stop wasting your breath. You can call her a liar all you want, but everybody in here already sees it. Your face said it before she even opened her mouth. The woman stepped closer, her voice trembling but firm. You said you loved me. You said I was the only one who understood you. You promised me things. And now you want to act like I don't exist. Like I didn't give you pieces of myself I can't ever get back. The words hit like daggers, each one slicing into Rasheeda. She turned to Kirk, her voice small, broken. Is it true? Just tell me, please. Just tell me before I lose my mind. The studio went silent. You could hear the hum of the lights, the shuffling of restless feet. All eyes were on Kirk, who stood sweating, trembling, his lips pressed shut. Rasheeda screamed again, louder this time. Answer me, Kirk. Is it true? Her voice echoed through the room, through the cameras, through every viewer at home. Kirk finally opened his mouth, but the words came out cracked and shattered. I made mistakes. The audience erupted, screaming, some booing, some clapping. Rasheeda's body crumpled, her knees hitting the floor as she sobbed uncontrollably. Not again, not again. How could you do this to me again? Her wails filled the studio, raw and heartbreaking. Carly Red covered her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. I can't watch this. She don't deserve this. Yandi wrapped her arms around Rasheeda, whispering, Get up, sis. Don't let him see you break. You stronger than this. You've always been stronger. But Rasheeda's pain was uncontainable. She clutched Yandi's shirt, sobbing into her shoulder. I gave him everything. I forgave him when nobody else would. I built this empire by his side. And he threw it away again. Again. The audience echoed her pain, many wiping their own tears, others shouting support. We love you, Rasheeda. Leave him. Kirk, desperate, tried to defend himself. It ain't what it looks like. I swear it ain't what she making it out to be. But the mystery woman cut him off with a single sentence that sent the studio into total meltdown. Then why you still calling me last month, begging me not to tell her? The room detonated. Screams, gasps, hands thrown in the air. Rasheeda collapsed against Yandi, her sobs shaking her whole body. Mona Scott buried her face in her hands, knowing this moment would dominate headlines for weeks. Jock shook his head, whispering, Man, this is the end of the Frosts. Carly turned toward the audience, eyes wide. History been made tonight. Mendeecees leaned forward, his voice calm. Final, truth always comes out. And now it has. So what you gonna do, Kirk? You gonna keep lying? Or you finally gonna stand up and be a man? The camera zoomed in on Kirk, trembling, broken, cornered by his own actions. Rasheeda lifted her head, tears streaming, her voice ragged but fierce. No more excuses. No more lies. Tonight, it ends. Whatever we had, it's over. The audience screamed in support, chanting her name, as Kirk dropped his head into his hands, defeated. But even as the chaos reached its peak, the mystery woman wasn't done. She stepped forward again, her voice colder now. Y'all think this is the worst of it? Nah, this is only the beginning. There's more. Kirk don't want nobody to know. The audience gasped, phones shot higher into the air, and Mona screamed into her headset. The reunion had crossed into uncharted territory, and the Frost Empire was hanging by a thread. The room trembled with the weight of silence after the woman's last words. Every breath, every shift in a chair, every murmur from the crowd felt amplified, as though the entire world had pressed its ear to the walls of that studio. Kirk stood frozen, his face pale, his eyes darting as though searching for an exit that didn't exist. Rasheeda sat crumpled in her seat, Yandi still holding her. Carly staring like she was watching the final act of a Greek tragedy unfold. Mendeecees leaned forward, steady, calm, the architect of this entire unraveling. The woman tightened her grip on the microphone. Her voice wavered at first, but the conviction behind it grew stronger with each word. You all think Kirk's mistakes stop with me. You think I'm the only one carrying his secrets? No. There are others. Other women, other lies, other children caught in the crossfire of his mess. And tonight, I'm done being quiet. Gasps shot through the audience, shrieks bounced off the walls, and phones flew higher in the air. Carly clutched her chest, whispering into her mic, Oh my God, this is deeper than I thought. Jock, shaking his head, muttered, Brewer, this ain't no reunion, this a funeral for Kirk's reputation. The crowd erupted with laughter and cheers at his comment, but their eyes remained glued to the stage. Rasheeda let out a guttural sound, half sob, half scream. She grabbed Kirk's arm, digging her nails into him. Tell me, she's lying. Tell me right now, she's making this up. Kirk. Her voice cracked, and the studio audience held its breath. Kirk shook his head wildly, stammering, Man, she exaggerating. She twisting everything. Yeah, I messed up before, but she making it sound worse than it is. His voice carried the frantic tone of a man drowning. The woman stepped closer, her eyes narrowing. Worse than it is. Kirk, you told me I wasn't the only one. You bragged about the others. You said it was the way you handled stress. You laughed about it. And now you want to sit here and play victim. You disgust me. The crowd booed Kirk so loud, the cameras shook. Hashtags exploded across Twitter. Hashtag Kirk exposed. Hashtag RASHEEDA deserves better. Hashtag Mystery Woman speaks. The internet was ablaze, and clips of Rasheeda's sobs were already viral. Mendeecees finally spoke, his tone sharp. See, this is what I've been saying. Men like Kirk walk around unchecked for too long, and women like Rasheeda keep paying the price. But tonight, the truth catching up. His voice boomed, cutting through the storm, and the audience roared in approval. Rasheeda's hands shook as she wiped her face. She stood unsteadily, her voice broken but strong. You humiliated me once before, Kirk. The world saw it. I fought to forgive you, to rebuild with you, to give our family another chance. And you promised me. It was done. And now this. More lies, more women, more secrets. Her scream echoed, and her body trembled violently. The audience chanted her name, Rasheeda, Rasheeda. Kirk reached for her hand, but she snatched it away, recoiling like his touch burned. Don't you dare touch me. Don't you dare stand here and pretend you still my husband when you've been everybody's man but mine. The crowd exploded, clapping, shouting, stomping. Tears streaked Rasheeda's face, but her words cut like a blade. The mystery woman raised her mic again, her expression unreadable. And if you think this ends with me, you're wrong. I'm not the only one ready to talk. Others are watching. And after tonight, they won't be scared to come forward. The audience erupted in hysteria. Some shrieking, some chanting expose him. Expose him. Carly looked like she might faint from the thrill of it all. Chilly, this is about to be bigger than Jasmine. Bigger than anything we've ever seen. Jock, shaking his head, muttered. Kirk's done. He can't come back from this one. Rasheeda stood trembling, but her voice turned cold, steely. You know what? I don't even care anymore. If there are others, let them come. Let the whole damn world tell me what you've been doing behind my back. Because I'm done being blind. I'm done being your fool. Her words silenced the room for a moment, the raw power of her declaration cutting through the noise. Kirk collapsed into his chair, burying his face in his hands. His body shook, but whether from rage or despair, nobody could tell. The audience booed louder, some shouting for Rasheeda to leave him, others calling him a coward. Yandi turned to Rasheeda, her voice soft but firm. Sis, you don't need him. You got your own money, your own business, your own empire. You bigger than this man's lies. You shine brighter without him. The audience clapped wildly, chanting Rasheeda's name again. Rasheeda nodded slowly, tears streaming, but her jaw set with determination. She turned to Kirk one final time, her voice icy. You wanted to play with my life like it was a game. Congratulations. You just lost everything. The studio exploded, people screaming, standing on chairs, waving their arms. Mendeecees leaned back, satisfied, his work complete. The mystery woman stood tall, her truth unleashed. Rasheeda, broken yet unbowed, had declared her independence. And Kirk, the once untouchable, sat drowning in shame before millions. But the reunion wasn't over. Mona Scott's voice cut through the chaos, almost trembling with disbelief. If you think tonight has hit its peak, trust me, we're only just getting started. The crowd gasped again, the cameras zoomed closer, and the stage lights dimmed slightly, as though foreshadowing another wave of chaos about to crash down. The mystery woman stepped back, but her smirk suggested she knew something even deeper still lingered in the shadows. And Rasheeda, her heart shattered, could feel that this night wasn't just about betrayal, it was about total destruction. The lights dimmed just enough to throw long shadows across the stage, and the crowd hushed, sensing another twist was coming. Mona Scott sat forward in her chair, headset pressed tight against her ear, as producers whispered frantically backstage. The cast leaned in, eyes wide, knowing the night had gone beyond anything they had rehearsed or prepared for. Rasheeda stood trembling, her mascara smeared, her breathing sharp. Kirk sat hunched, his head buried in his hands, sweat glistening on his brow. The mystery woman remained poised, her chin lifted as though she had been waiting years for this exact moment. And Mendeecees leaned back, arms crossed, calm as a storm about to break wide open. Then Mona spoke, her voice sharp but quivering with anticipation. We've just received word. Someone else is here tonight, and they claim they have their own story to tell. The studio erupted, shrieks and stomps shaking the walls. Phones flew higher into the air. Jock grabbed his mic, laughing nervously. Brr. At this point, Just wheel them all out like it's Maury. Don't play with us. Mona, the crowd hollered, clapping, some chanting bring her out. Bring her out. Rasheeda's eyes went wide with horror. No, 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 I can't take this anymore. Please, Mona, don't do this to me. Haven't I suffered enough? Her voice cracked, her body folding in on itself as Yandi tried to steady her, but Mona shook her head, her producer's instinct unstoppable. Rasheeda, the truth has a way of demanding to be heard. And it looks like it's knocking again tonight. Security opened the doors, and the crowd went wild as another figure entered. This time, a younger woman, nervous, hesitant, clutching her purse like it was a shield. The cameras zoomed in, the audience gasped, and Carly Red practically jumped out of her seat. Oh my God, she's a baby. The young woman walked slowly to the stage, her voice trembling as she spoke. I didn't come here to hurt nobody, but I can't keep quiet anymore. Kirk, you know me, you know exactly who I am. The room exploded. Rasheeda let out a scream so sharp it cut through the crowd noise. She pointed at Kirk, her whole body shaking. Another one, another one. Her sobs racked her chest, and she collapsed back into Yandi's arms. Kirk stood, his hands raised as if trying to block the young woman's words. Man, this is out of pocket. Y'all bringing in anybody off the street now? Trying to ruin me? But the young woman's eyes welled with tears as she shook her head. I ain't off the street, Kirk. You know that. You know what we had. You know what you promised me. You said I was special. You said you'd take care of me. Her words cracked, and the audience roared again. Jock shook his head, muttering into his mic. This man, reckless, he ain't even hiding it no more. Rasheeda screamed again, clawing at her own arms as if trying to wake herself from a nightmare. You're killing me, Kirk. Do you understand? You're killing me. The studio went silent for a moment, the weight of her words sinking into every person in the room. Even Mona looked shaken, her eyes darting to the producers as if asking if they had gone too far. Mendeecees leaned forward, his voice low but booming through the mic. This is what happens when lies pile up. They don't just disappear, they multiply. And now look, your whole world collapsing in front of you. His words echoed, and Kirk finally snapped, shouting across the stage. Shut your mouth, Mendeecees. You don't know me. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know the pressure I'm under. But the audience booed him mercilessly. The young woman stepped closer, her voice shaking. Pressure don't give you the right to use people, Kirk. Pressure don't give you the right to break hearts and walk away. You played me like a game, and I'm done being your pawn. She tossed her purse on the ground, pulling out crumpled photos, grainy shots of her and Kirk together, smiling, laughing, sitting in cars late at night. The crowd screamed so loud it nearly shook the cameras. Rasheeda stumbled forward, snatching one of the photos off the floor. Her hands shook as she stared at it, her face contorting with rage and grief. You told me you were working late. You told me you were grinding for us. And you were out here smiling in some other woman's face. She hurled the photo back at Kirk, her scream splitting the air. I hate you. The audience lost control, some cheering Rasheeda on, others screaming in disbelief. Carly covered her mouth, tears streaming. She don't deserve this. Nobody does. Yandi rubbed Rasheeda's back, whispering into her ear. Let it out. Don't hold it in. Let the whole world see your truth. Kirk sank back into his seat, his face buried in his hands, rocking back and forth. The young woman wiped her tears, her voice quiet but firm. I didn't come here to hurt Rasheeda. I came because I couldn't live with the lies anymore. And if I gotta stand here and be hated to free myself, then so be it. Mendeecees nodded slowly, his voice solemn. And that's why I spoke up. Because the longer lies stay buried, the more people they destroy. Tonight ain't about clout, it's about truth. And the truth always wins. The audience clapped and cheered, chanting Rasheeda's name again. But Rasheeda stood trembling, her voice cold. Final. You win. Kirk, you broke me. You broke our family. And I swear to God, this time, I'm not coming back. Her words dropped like a guillotine, and the studio erupted in chaos once more. But in the corner of the stage, Mona raised her mic, her eyes sharp. You think this is the end? Trust me's not. There's still more to come. The crowd gasped, the cast froze, and even Mendeecees looked startled, because whatever was left lurking in the shadows promised to be even darker. The hum in the studio shifted from riot to prayer, a low, restless murmur that trembled in the lights. Mona pressed 2 fingers to her headset and stared down the runway as security formed a narrow aisle. Cameras tilted, cranes arced, and the audience leaned as one body. Then a figure appeared at the double doors, hesitant at first, then deliberate. It was not a stranger. It was family. Kelsey Frost walked into the light, chin set, eyes rimmed red as if the truth had kept her awake for months. The reaction crashed like surf. Some fans cheered her courage. Others booed, already guessing what her presence meant. Kirk jerked upright, panic flaring in his eyes. Rasheeda's breath left her in a soft, broken sound. Kelsey stopped center stage and did not look at her father. She looked at Rasheeda. "I'm sorry," she said, voice small but steady. "I didn't come to hurt you. I came because I can't hold it anymore." Rasheeda swayed where she stood. "Kelsey, baby, what are you saying? What do you know?" The words scraped out of her like they hurt to speak. Kirk pounded a fist against the arm of his chair. "You don't say a word," he hissed, voice hot with a fear that made the audience hiss back. "You go backstage right now. We talk as a family." Kelsey flinched at the tone, but she didn't move. "That's what you always say. We talk as a family. And then you make it disappear. You promise it will never happen again. And then it happens again." She lifted a folded stack of papers from her bag, edges worn, corners dog-eared. "I brought what I could. I didn't want to, but I have to." The room sharpened. Every face aimed at the papers in her hand. Mona's voice softened to a warning. "Kelsey, are you sure?" "I'm sure," Kelsey said. Mendeecees leaned forward, elbows on knees. "Quiet now, no trace of gloating. Let her speak." Kelsey took a breath. "A year ago you asked me to handle an invoice at the store," she said to Kirk without looking at him. "You said it was a rush. You said it was for a vendor who had done you a favor. You told me to wire the money and not log it in the main ledger until you gave the word." She swallowed. "I logged it anyway." Then more invoices came. Small ones, then bigger ones, different names, same account, same late-night texts from you, week after week. Rasheeda clutched the back of the couch, her knuckles white. "What account?" Her voice shook, but it did not break. Kelsey unfolded the top page. A studio account in a manager's name, and a private line tied to the same email your phone backed up to. "Dad." She looked up at last. "I thought it was business. Then I saw messages when the cloud bugged out and everything mirrored to the office iPad. I didn't go looking. They popped up. Photos, voice notes, promises, and transfers that hit the same night." A collective groan rolled through the seats. Carly covered her mouth with both hands. Jock stared at the floor, jaw tight. Yandi closed her eyes once and opened them again, braced. Kirk shook his head, frantic. "You don't understand those messages. That was negotiations. People try to get paid off rumors. I was protecting the brand." "Whose brand?" Kelsey asked, not unkind, just tired. She turned her body toward Rasheeda, careful, like approaching a wounded animal. "It wasn't only one woman. I thought maybe it was the same person using different names. Then I realized it wasn't. There were patterns. There were meets booked in the studio after hours under fake session titles. There were cash pickups at the parking deck by the back gate. And when the first woman threatened to reach out directly to you, the transfers doubled." Rasheeda pressed a hand to her chest as if to keep something from splitting. "How could you not tell me?" She said it to the air. Not to blame, not to scold. It sounded like a mother in a dream trying to wake a house that will not wake. Kelsey's eyes flooded, because every time I tried to bring it up, he reminded me of the good days. He told me family stays in the house. He said he would lose everything if I made a mistake. He said I would break you. Her voice thinned, but she kept going. "And I couldn't bear to be the one to do that to you. I kept thinking I could stop it from inside. That if I paid the last invoice and told him no more, it would end." She looked at Kirk again, pleading without expecting mercy. "But you didn't stop." The younger woman who had shown the photos stepped closer to the stage's edge. Her lips trembled, but she gave Kelsey a small nod. A bridge between strangers drawn into the same storm. The first mystery woman folded her arms and stared at Kirk as if measuring the weight of his denial. Kirk laughed once, short and bitter. "So now my daughter is testifying like we in court. You proud Mendeecees? You done turned the stage into a witness stand?" Mendeecees did not rise to it. "I didn't turn anything. The truth walked in by itself." Mona lifted a hand, voice careful. "Kelsey, you said voice notes." Kelsey's fingers shook as she scrolled through her phone. A hush fell so deep the sound of air conditioning hummed loud as thunder. She tapped. A familiar voice filled the speakers, tinny but undeniable. "Do not answer her," Kirk's voice said, low and urgent. "Tell her the shipment is delayed. I'll move money Friday. She cannot talk to Rasheeda. Not now. I'm a fix-it. I always fix it." The audience erupted, then fell quiet again, stunned by the nakedness of the sound. Rasheeda's head bowed as if the roof had come down. Her shoulders lifted once, twice, 3 times. Like someone learning to breathe after breaking the surface of a deep black lake. Kirk lunged forward, hands out. "That's out of context." That's not what it sounds like. Then what is it? Rasheeda asked, finally lifting her face. The tears were there, but something else had arrived behind them. It was not fury. It was clarity. What is it when your voice says hide a woman from me and move money on Friday? What is it when my stepdaughter has to become your bookkeeper and your cover at the same time? No one spoke. The floor itself seemed to hold its breath. Yandi reached for Rasheeda's hand. You don't have to listen to any more, she said softly. You can walk right now. Rasheeda did not move. I am going to hear it all, she said, as if reading from lines carved in stone. I am going to hear every piece, and then I am going to walk. Kelsey nodded, fresh tears falling. One more, she said. She slid to a second file. The audio clicked. Last time, Kirk's voice whispered. I swear to God. Last one. After this, I'm done. I can't lose her. Don't let her see the statements. I'll move the ledger myself. The room shuddered. A soundless quake that rippled through Jock whispered, man, and had nothing else to add. Carly sobbed without a hand for her tears. Even security stared, forgetting their posts. Rasheeda straightened, a small thing like standing on a ship that has finally stopped pitching. You moved my life out of my sight, she said. You moved our money. You moved our trust. You moved our vows. She turned to Kelsey, and the hurt in her face melted into something maternal and fierce. Thank you for telling me. I wish you had sooner. I am sorry you had to carry it. Kelsey crumpled, relief and grief, folding her at once. Rasheeda reached for her and pulled her against her shoulder. The whole room softened at the picture of it. The two of them clinging while the world howled around them. Kirk tried to speak, and failed. He tried again. I was drowning, he said, voice husky, a man cutting his palms on the shards of his own excuses. Every day was noise and pressure, and everyone wanting a piece. I got lost. I reached for what felt easy. I told myself I could handle it. I told myself I could clean it up before it hurt anybody. And then it was too big to clean. There it is, Mendeecees said. Not triumph, just witness. The truth. Yandi's eyes flashed. Truth is, he chose it. Pressure did not call those numbers. Pressure did not book those rooms. The younger woman lifted a hand. I did not want money. I wanted honesty. When I threatened to tell her, I wasn't trying to ruin him. I was trying to save myself. The first mystery woman shook her head once. He told each of us we were the only storm he couldn't live without. He said we were the pressure he needed to make diamonds. He lied with poetry. The audience groaned at the line, as if the charm of it burned worse than the deed. Mona stood slowly. We are going to take a pause, she said, voice gentler than it had been all night. We are human beings before we are a show. No, Rasheeda said. We are going to finish this. So the finishing is mine and not the internet's. She turned to Kirk. I am done. I mean the real word. Papers, locks, books. I will not put my name under your storms again. Kirk nodded once, as if a verdict had landed that even he could respect. He wiped his face like a tired boxer. Kelsey stepped away from Rasheeda and faced her father. I still love you, she said, simple and plain. But I cannot be your shield. He closed his eyes. I know. Silence drew long and almost holy. Then a producer hurried up the stairs with a tablet, cheeks flushed. He showed Mona the screen. She blinked, then frowned, scanning, then raised her eyes to the crowd. There is one more clip, she said carefully. It is from a production phone line. It was forwarded anonymously 5 minutes ago. She looked at Rasheeda. Do you want to hear it? Play it, Rasheeda said. A new voice filled the room, clear as if it stood beside them. It was Kirk again. Different day, different urgency. Listen, he said, speaking to a man who didn't answer on the recording. You promised me that scene wouldn't air. You said you'd bury it. I'll cover the cost. You know I always make it right. She can't see it. Not this one. Not the hotel. Not the lobby. Not the hug that turned into something else. If that goes live, I lose everything. The audience howled, then hushed on its own as the weight of the confession settled. Rasheeda looked at Kirk as if seeing him across a long field. He opened his mouth and closed it. There was nothing left to spin. Mendeecees rose to his feet. I didn't come to ruin a home, he said. I came because good people keep getting cut on the glass of secrets. Maybe tonight some of the glass got swept. Rasheeda nodded to him once. Not a forgiveness, not an alliance, but a recognition of the road that had brought them all to this cliff. She turned to the audience and spoke to the room as if it were a single person. I am going to take my life back now. Y'all have watched me hurt. You will watch me heal. The place erupted with a sound that felt different from the earlier chaos. It was not laughter, not it was human noise that held a kind of respect. Mona let the wave crest, then lifted a hand for calm. "We will close this segment," she said, voice steady again. "Before we do, Kirk, is there anything you need to say that is not an excuse?" Kirk stared at the floor until the words found him. "I am sorry," he said, "not the television kind. The kind you say when you realize you broke what you cannot buy back. I hope one day you do not think of me when you think of pain." Rasheeda did not answer. She did not need to. She took Kelsey's hand, then reached for Yandi's and stepped forward to the edge of the stage. The three women stood there with the lights washing over them. The cameras caught it, and for once, there was nothing to cut around. It was just what it looked like. The younger woman who had shown the photos lifted her chin and wiped her cheeks. The first mystery woman exhaled, as if a decade had left her lungs. Jock bowed his head. Carly squeezed Rasheeda's shoulder with a tenderness that surprised even her. Security remembered their jobs. Mendeecees sank back into his chair and set his phone on the table. The screen went dim. In the far corner, a red light on a camera began to blink, signaling a return from commercial. Producers fanned out with quiet orders. The audience resettled, buzzing with the knowledge that they had witnessed a night the city would talk about for years. Rasheeda did not sit. She faced the lens with a composure that had cost her blood. "Roll," she said softly. The light steadied. The room held still. And the story, at last, belonged to the person who had paid for it most. The dust hasn't even settled, and already the internet is on fire. Clips from tonight's reunion are being shared, slowed down, rewound, and dissected frame by frame. Fans are arguing in comment sections, blogs are spitting out headlines in real time, and hashtags are flooding every timeline you scroll through. People are choosing sides, some standing firmly with Rasheeda, calling her the strongest woman in Atlanta for finally saying enough, while others can't stop dragging Kirk, pointing out his silence and those damning receipts. And let's not forget Mendeecees, who lit the fuse and sat back as the truth turned the entire stage upside down. So now the real question is, where do you stand? Do you believe Kirk when he says it was all exaggerated? Or do you think Rasheeda has finally reached the breaking point every fan has been waiting for? Was Mendeecees right to expose everything? Or did he cross a line by bringing his receipts to the Frost family's doorstep? And what about those mystery women? Do you think we've really heard the full truth? Or is there still more waiting to come out? This is where you come in. I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell me what shocked you the most tonight. Was it Kelsey's confession? The voice notes? The photos? Or maybe it was the look on Rasheeda's face when she told Kirk it was over for good? Every single moment tonight had people screaming, crying, and hitting pause just to catch their breath. Which one had you clutching your chest? And while you're at it, make sure you smash that like button if you were glued to this drama, just like I was. It helps more fans find this video, and trust me, this conversation isn't ending anytime soon. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next drop. Because if tonight proved anything, it's that the Frost saga is far from over. New secrets, new twists, and new betrayals are waiting just around the corner. And you know we'll be here breaking it all down the second it happens. Don't just watch, be part of the chaos. Comment your theories, share this with your friends, and let's get this video trending. The streets of Atlanta are buzzing, and you already know the drama doesn't stop when the cameras cut. This is your chance to have your voice heard in the middle of the storm. So tell me right now, is the Frost Empire finished for good, or will Kirk and Rasheeda rise from the ashes one more time?